we've conducted the world's first benchmarking of Microsoft Teams. We've analysed 15 organisations worldwide, more than 5,300 teams and over 1 million Teams interactions. Part of the benchmarking, Laurie, has been looking at best practices, and I know we've spoken with quite a few partners who work with many of these organisations worldwide. Can you share what some of those best practices in Teams are?
Yes, well, I think our report, our benchmarking reports are all about best practices and helping people attain best practices. But interestingly, we wanted to try something a little bit different this time. We thought we went to our partners and said, You're working with these organisations all the time. What do you see? But we didn't. Rather than asking what do you see that's working good, we thought we'd ask them what's not working. What are the worst practices you're seeing, and what are the things that they might be doing that sound sensible now, but in the longer term they can be quite damaging. So, just to summarise a few of them, I think I'll bring up. The first one is team creation. The first thing a lot of organisations think about is, this is going to go wild. People will be setting up teams all over the place. We've got to control this. So why don't we build a wall where they have to apply to form a team? Our partners are saying this is not a good idea to put this up, because as soon as you put up that bureaucratic wall, they'll not go there. They won't adopt. They'll keep using their WhatsApp or their Messenger or what have you, and that's going against what you're actually trying to achieve. In fact, they said even if you did put one up and said we're going to sort of turn it around in 5 hours or 3 hours or what have you, in that case, they're not even assessing them anyway. So what's the point? So what they said, there's a lot of tools and techniques and technologies actually can help you clean up bad teams or poorly performing teams or underutilised teams or what have you. The important thing is not to dampen the enthusiasm to set these teams up. So that was their first.
So let people create teams and look at the governance later.
Exactly. Let them experiment with these teams, find out something, and if it doesn't work out, and a lot of times it won't, there's other ways of cleaning that sort of stuff up, not to stop it to start with.
Okay.
The second thing we found is obviously that the teams are bigger than our real world teams, right? And our biggest team was over 3,000 members. Now that's not clearly a normal team, is it? Now on average there was at least 20 people a team. Now that's big. Right? So. And we're calling this team bloat because on average we found that about just under 50% of the people in these teams aren't doing anything. They're what we call the gallery.
So they don't need to be there?
Well, sometimes they need to be there depending on the sort of team they are. So if you're actually building a team that you want to be like a forum or even a community, then it's appropriate to have a gallery that's either watching or learning or listening. But if you want to be this tight, self-directed team where you're really high performance, the last thing you need is 50 people looking at what you're doing, because it impacts the way you behave. And also, to be fair, they're also getting notified every time you sneeze, so that's not really good for them either. So team bloat is something that you need to be careful when you add people to the team as to what their role is, and it works both ways for them and for you. The third thing is about training, right? So typically new technology, what are we going to do? How are we going to train things? Lots of stuff out there on training. Most of that training is technical training, right? So when you push this button, this is what will happen. If you want to do this, you push that, pull this down, what have you, right?
So what's the solution to that?
Well, I think you need that sort of stuff, right? You need to know how to use the tool. But what our partners are saying is that if that's all you do, all you're doing is, putting some new clothes on and walking around for a while. Well, I haven't actually got that much better. I might look better, but I'm not doing anything better. What they're saying is that you really need to put people at the centre of your training. So you need to teach them how to collaborate. You need to teach them about what it's like to be in a high productive team, independent of the technology. Right? So they start to think about how do we do it better as a team first, and then how does the technology help us to work better? So this is what the recommendation was from that. So that's therefore becomes the best practice.
Okay.
And the last one, I guess, is what we often talk about. How does team starts in an organisation? Well, IT of course has to turn it on. Right now, if the business lets that run its course, IT will end up designing and architecting your team structure. Right now. That's not a good idea, and it's not something they aspire to do. I might say as well, but they will architect something that makes their job easier, and typically it'll be let's just have big teams with lots of channels, and it'll be easier to manage all the people and what have you. In a business sense, that's usually terrible, right? So the business needs to take ownership for the collaboration. rather than leave it to the default being the IT people. So that certainly was a clear message we had from our partners.
Oh, that's a great first for not best practices, but worst practices and how to turn them into best practices.
That's right, and there'll be many more. We've got a few more in our report, and Sharon's going to write up that and all the backstories behind that. I think you'll find it amusing because, we're often right about best practices and they sound a bit bland and motherhoodish. Worst practices are really interesting.
Well, thanks for sharing, Laurie.
Okay.